Very welcome to all of you again who have started this quite difficult job of making a pattern for a complete jacket. Sometimes somebody asks, is this going to be a jacket for a man or for a woman? Well, it is actually the pattern for a classical gents jacket or Sakko, but of course you can take exactly the same way of doing this to do a real nice business jacket or blazer for a woman. Alright, let's continue, because before you start your cutting we have to discuss a couple of more things. I would like to give you some special tips and hints, and of course we have to talk about how to do the lining as well, and this is what I'm going to tell you all about in this video. So maybe you already done your complete drawing for the jacket, which means the back, the side part, the front, the sleeves, and the color, exactly as I've shown you in the previous 3 videos which I've done for you. Alright, so the first job is to cut all those out and add the seam allowances. As you can see here, I've practically done that preparation already, so I can really explain it easily to you what allowances I, for my jacket, add onto all the pattern pieces. Let's start with the back. I add for the back middle seam 1 centimeter, for the neck 1 centimeter, for the shoulder, for the part of the sleeve hole, here starts the side, again 1 centimeter, and just on the seam for the bottom I added 4 centimeters on. Of course you must also know, if you prefer to put bigger seams on, this is all up to you, but where I wouldn't do it, I would not put a bigger seam allowance on the neck or on the sleeve hole part, because that makes it quite difficult then for an exact sewing. Alright, let's continue with the middle part. Again you can see I added 1 centimeter all the way around, besides my seam on the bottom, 4 centimeters. And exactly the same I did with my front. Let me fold this over slightly so you can see this better. And here again as well, 1 centimeter on the front, all the top parts on the side, and only for the seam on the bottom I added 4 centimeters. Now you wonder why my piece is falling apart here. Well, if you did the pattern already, you know that I told you that we're putting some kind of dart in here. But of course in a classical Sakko you would not put any kind of darts in the bottom in. But we need it to get the right shape for the jacket. So what I did here already, I cut my line, which was my helping line when I did do the drawing for the front. I cut that open all the way just before the start of the pocket line is here, and I also cut the pocket line open. Because of that now I can easily fold this under, and my dart for the bottom is gone, but to shape the jacket I will work this particular dart width practically into the side, into the pocket end later on. The only thing I have to do down here is, as you can see, because of the dart that I folded under, I do have a slight angle here, which I have to even out when I cut the material out. And also somebody just recently asked me, it looks on your pattern as if you do have a corner in the side in. Well, of course, because here we will definitely sew this dart that is here, and as you can see, that width here is exactly what's standing over here. So in the moment this dart has been stitched up, my sides will be even in line with each other. Now what you can see, I also already marked approximately where I would like to have my buttons for the jacket. There again later I can still decide if instead of 2 maybe I only want 1 button. But that is not so important at this particular moment. So what else do we need? As I will do a double welt pocket here with a flap inside, I need to prepare myself the welt pieces, which I cut 3 centimeters wide and definitely at least 2 centimeters on each side wider than my flap will be. And the flap, I would like to have a finished flap of 16 centimeters. That means I must make a pattern 18 centimeters. And my finished height of the flap should be 5.5, so I make the pattern 7.5, so I do have all the allowance for the seams. Now it's up to you if you want to shape them round or if you want to have them square. This is all a matter of taste and design, of course. And you need later on to cut those 4 times. And you need also 4 times those little welt stripes. 3 centimeters wide, and as you can see, for something like that I don't do an extra pattern. I cut it right away from the material which the jacket will be from. And also here I put already an interfacing on, so this is already prepared for me. What you also need, if you like to make a chest pocket in the Sakko, which you should do because it looks fantastic, it's slightly drawn sideways, so that's how you also have to do this pattern. Sorry, I gotta put it that way. For this one, make your decision how long you want it. I want mine in a finished size of 11 centimeters and the height of 2.5, so I gotta cut it 13 by 7, one piece like that, where also the interfacing will go on later. Alright, next thing we need is to look at the color, which you remember you did do the drawing on top of your front. And I cut it out. This is the proper size. You can see here, this was my drawing in the proper size because this is 1 by 2 only. And now you have 2 possibilities. You can make for the upper and for the under color each time 2 pieces out of it, like I show you here. But before you cut it apart, make sure your mark, where your mark had on the drawing, where the shoulder is, which is exactly in that point there. You got to make a mark and make yourself 2 marks where the little part from the color joins onto the big part, because those pieces look so much alike that if you don't do a job like that all the time, it's easy to by accident get it the wrong way around. So cut this one out and add your 1 centimeter seam allowance on those 3 sides. 1, 2, 3. On the bottom, where you did the 2 marks here, only put 0.5 centimeter on. The same on the opposite, because this particular seam, if you add 1 centimeter or even more onto it, you definitely will have to cut it out later, and it doesn't fall very nice at all. But if you only put a 0.5 centimeter seam on and stitch it like that, you don't need to cut anything out. You just iron the seam apart later on, and the color has a beautiful fold. And of course here you got the fold anyway, so you see this is the allowances of the seams that I like to put on my colors. Now one more thing, you can cut 2 pairs of these and 2 pairs of these to have your colors. On the upper color you should add on the top here another extra 3 millimeters approximately, depending on the thickness of the material. If it's a wool material, even 4 to 5 millimeters higher, because it needs it to roll nicely around the undercolor. That's why you need a little bit more width here. But you can also, for the undercolor, instead of dividing it by those 2, you can also take your original one, add your seam allowance 1 centimeter all the way around here, and leave this as 1 piece, but only for the underneath color, not for the upper color. Alright, that was the next preparation we had to do. What else do we got? We got, of course, the sleeve. Again here, you can see I added more or less 1 centimeter on all my parts, on the upper, on the actual sleeve, around, on the sides. On the bottom I added 4.5 centimeters, and so I can put a nice little vent into the sleeve. I added from my finished line, not from the seam line, from the finished line I added 5 centimeters. As you remember on the pattern, when we made the sleeve pattern, I told you already to put a little mark here from that point to there on 10 centimeters. It looked like that when we did the drawing, because that will be already the opening for the vent. But now we have to talk about all the marks that I got in here that you see, because they're very important for you, especially if you're maybe not so firm with sewing and you're more or less a starter or not doing the sewing very, very often. First of all, start with your middle back. As from the drawing, you got a chest line, a waistline and a hip line. You can make yourself 1, 2 or even 3 marks to be able to really stitch the middle back from your jacket together very well. Then you just continue on your lines and make, as you need them, as many, the more the merrier, as you like to say, to be able to join those seams together. The same with the front, you continue just the same. Put yourself as many marks in as you think you will need. On the sleeve it was the same. I had this elbow line here, so it's very easy to right away put them on, so I know this will exactly fit on top of each other. The same, I like to do this on all the parts that I know easily. That will be my fold over later for my bottom, for my seam. The same on the sleeve. But now comes the slightly more difficult part, as you do need some markings to put your sleeve in correctly. So let's start by looking at the sleeve construction which you've done. As you can see, I marked something here in yellow. When you look at your construction, you know you have this middle helping line down here, and you had another line here to do the back round from the sleeve. Well, make yourself one mark, approximately 3/4 centimeters, or call it 0.75 centimeters, from that mark towards the back sleeve. Make that mark there, or you could call it between those two, but from the front 0.75 over, because this will be exactly the point where your shoulder seam will be. So that goes right on top of your shoulder seam. Now let's look at the front, because this sleeve, the way it's been drawn and constructed, your front seam of the sleeve is not even with the side seam from the jacket. It is slightly put farther forward. So, in other words, means this particular point when the seam has been stitched will come 3 centimeters from this finished seam towards the front in your front. So make yourself a mark here on 3 centimeters, not from the edge from your seam allowance, but from the finished seam that you would have, 3 centimeters over, because this will go exactly there when you start stitching the sleeve in. And then, because every sleeve, no matter which sleeve you put in any coat or jacket or dress in, should not have any widths, completely the area underneath the arm. So make yourself another mark, approximately 6.5 or 7, that is up to you. From this point measure 7 centimeters up, and from this point measure 7 centimeters or 6.5, whatever you choose, up, and make another mark, because you should have this totally flat line without any kind of widths in it. The rest of the widths is got to be held into here nicely, so you get there to your shoulder. The same when you come down with the sleeve here on the back, then that would be the shoulder. And now you can see I got another mark here. Well, that mark is again for a seam that you have, because when you stitch this sleeve together, this point will go exactly on top of that point, and this is the point that will be right there when you stitch the sleeve in. So again, from this point, which you do have from constructing the jacket, it's quite in the beginning on my first video where you see that is the first part of the sleeve hole that we're drawing. So that is our mark there. So from that mark you go 3 centimeters up, and that is your point for the seam in the sleeve. And then you will see you will have a beautiful fitted sleeve, and when you put the shoulder padding in, it's just going to be unbelievable nice, and everybody's going to say, God, it looks like you bought this jacket. All right, but we're not quite finished yet, because we have to talk about the lining. Well, I start by telling you about the sleeve, because that is at the moment the easiest. This vent that I will put in here, I will make slightly like a pliant vent. You will see later on when I show you how to stitch it, how to put the whole jacket together. But I can tell you this, your lining parts will be exactly cut as you can see it for the main material. Besides that, you take from these 5 centimeters, you take 4 away, so it's practically the continuation of your seam allowance here. You go down to there. That would be the cutting for your lining. The same on the upper arm, and on the bottom for the seam you don't add 4.5, you only add 1.5, because the lining sleeve has got to be 3 centimeters shorter than the main material sleeve. Otherwise the lining will always show out on your jacket, on your sleeve, and that looks totally stupid. So with other words, you cut exactly the same upper material as lining, besides make it shorter, and don't add this extra piece for the vent onto it. Now we continue with the most easiest part to explain. It's the side part from the jacket. Again, the lining piece is on the whole top area exactly the same. Besides here on the bottom, again, you make it 3 centimeters shorter than the main material. I show you how, because now you can see it's lying exactly on top of each other. So if I would say this is my seam for the main material, and this has to be stitched onto this main material, here edge on edge, cut on cut, then you see my lining is just approximately 1.5 centimeters above my main material. Also there again, it means it will not show out whatsoever. And that's how we want it. We don't want lining to be plinking and plitzing out like, yeah, whatever. All right, now one more thing I like to say, in case if you want 2 vents in the side or in the back middle, all you have to do is add, as on the sleeve, the widths onto it here or onto it here, and then you can make your vents wherever you want them as well. It's the same kind of job as I will show you on the sleeve. Alright, let's continue. First of all with the back, as that is quite easy as well. I will put the main material now on top of this, so you see again that I will be even on all the sides, on the top completely, but here it will be different, because I'm not going to put a seam in the back of the coat. There will be a fold. Here you know it's got to be 3 centimeters shorter than the main material. I explained that earlier on there. But for my fold I want approximately 3 to 4 centimeters of width in the back, because that's much better for wearing the jacket, that it doesn't pull anywhere, and to make you feel comfortable in it. Therefore, as you can see, this would be my centimeter seam here, but I made myself on that centimeter seam a mark here. Now this will be my fold there on the material, and here I will put an extra dart in. You can just fold it over when you stitch it, or you can stitch it slightly up first, like in a dart. And exactly the same on the top. Also here I want approximately 1.5 to 2 centimeters width on the half of the pattern, and then I just draw it straight down from those 2 marks that I did, and that will be my complete width in the back, which is very good and necessary. And again, make yourself marks for putting the parts together. The same with the sleeve. You definitely need all the marks that you've done in the main material, you have to put in the lining the same as well. Alright, now here it gets a little bit more to look at and to explain, as I will show you, because we need an extra piece main material from the front for the lapel. So that's easy in the beginning, because I will mark completely my part here, as you can see it edge on edge. Then I went through with my little roller, as you can maybe see it here a little bit, and I added 1 centimeter onto this part. I measured here 11 centimeters from the front edge towards the waist, 12 centimeters, and on the top I went exactly into the corner of my shoulder neck part, as you can see it here. And those, with this very, very flat curve, I combined those 3 points with each other. This point, the waist point, and the bottom point on 11 centimeters, as I said. And don't forget to add this 1 centimeter seam on here, because exactly the same now you will have to do with this lining piece. That's main material. Now I just put this on the top, and we first of all look at our seam here. Again, you have to follow exactly the line you just put on your main pattern on, and add the 1 centimeter, so you can stitch this like that together. And again, make yourself some marks where you will have to stitch it together. The top, the sleeve, the shoulder, the side to here is all the same, but there is a difference here on the side, and you can see I'm slightly longer here on the bottom. So why did I do this? I got about 1 centimeter this lining here longer, because in this whole length up to the chest approximately, I would like to add a little bit of width of lining, because I'm sure you've seen this before, that you have a jacket or somebody else has one, and it seems that the lining is slightly pulling the jacket up. That means they didn't allow any widths in here whatsoever, and that is no good. And if you just add on this corner here 1 centimeter and then even this out between this line, you will see the jacket has a much better fit with a lining inside. But towards the side, for a start, I went up to there again 3 centimeters shorter than my main material. And that again is important. How this will be stitched in, I show you when we're doing the stitching. And now, as I'm also in the front would like to have a little bit of width, all I do is, after I reach this point here on the side, I just go straight down and add approximately 1 centimeter of width onto here as well, and I draw a straight line through, and then my lining is correct and completely prepared to do the proper cutting for all of it out. Alright, this will be all the explanation and preparation which you have to do.
Besides, there's one more important tip or hint I would like to tell you. If you've never done a pattern like this before in your life, you should now, when everything is so far done, start really measuring and checking all the parts once over again. Or, what's even better, cut from some old leftover pieces the main parts, maybe from the neck down to the chest, once out, and stitch them together. Because if you now see that there's any changes you will have to do or should do, that means you didn't ruin your new material for your coat. And you can easily do any kind of changes you will have to do. As an example, it happens to lots of people that they see that maybe the sleeve doesn't fit well because something is too tight, as an example, or the color is not really going into the neckline in. So in this state where you are now, all you have to do, let's take the case, the color is too tight in the back. Then open it up where the fold is and add the amount that you need to make the color a little bit longer. Or if you think the sleeve is too tight underneath, then maybe just cut a half a centimeter or a centimeter underneath the arm, underneath the sleeve, from the actual body part and from the sleeve part out, and then stitch it up or cut it new and stitch it together again. And change it until you're totally satisfied with your pattern and how it should fit.
If you've done all of that, now you can get your material out, your lining, your interfacing, and whatever you need for this jacket. And in the next video, I show you how your cutting should look like. And I will stitch together for you already the lining. So we do the first big steps of getting this coat done and finished. With other words, that's it for today. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you can follow me well. Tell everybody else who would like to do some good sewing to watch my videos. And occasionally give me a thumb up or give me some good comments, because I'm looking forward to read your comments. Thank you so much for now, and we'll be around again. Bye. Yours, Lilo.